Hey everybody, welcome to Hear Us Out. I am Patrick.
And I'm Paul. How's it going?
Not too bad. And Paul, this is a special bonus episode. Sorry, my camera is all twisted around. That's the angle you're getting of me today, I think. Um,
Yeah, we've been caught a bit on the hop, haven't
Caught a bit on the
we?
hop. As you can see, things are being deconstructed behind me. It's been a fun day. But we're here to talk about Dune special episode because uh, Dune, Dune, Dion Warwick, however you want to say Dune, it is out. We've both seen it, but also special episode because Paul has been looking forward to this film for, it's fair to say, 2 years. And
Yeah,
that's just even knowing its release date 2 years ago.
yeah. Like I heard a couple of years beforehand that they were going to do a remake or a reimagination of it, and I was just like, okay. And then I heard about the director, Denis Villeneuve.
Villeneuve, yeah.
Um, yeah, and I was just like, okay, well, there's no one better to do this, so I'm really excited about this all of a sudden. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
We quite literally did a video last year, I think it was, about could it be the next Star Wars? I remember doing a whole thing where we're like, when Dune comes out, it could be the next big sci-fi epic, sci-fi
yeah,
almost fantasy epic, because I feel, and I know a lot of people do agree, but a lot of people don't agree, that Frank Herbert's books, as much as I haven't read them, they're in that pantheon of they're in the same realm as the Tolkien books when it comes to Lord of the Rings. They have huge fan bases. They've been around for a very long time and have influenced an awful lot of other, not just literature, but an awful lot of other storytelling. And in the case of Frank Herbert and Dune, I think they've influenced an awful lot of what was sci-fi movie making and TV making for quite a long time. Big influence on
yeah.
people.
Yeah, like yeah, it's one of those it's one of those staples of kind of sci-fi epics kind of thing. So it's a cornerstone and kind of bringing everybody together or being that sci-fi isn't just kind of a 30-minute like sideshow on TV kind of thing. It's more that these things can be just as epic as fantasy and everything like that. So yeah, it's definitely a cornerstone of it.
And look, folks, we're Paul. We've got to just tell people there's going to be spoilers. There are going to be spoilers at this stage, more than likely. Even though I reckon we'll mostly try and keep it to light spoilers.
Yeah.
There's no way to actually talk about the movie without talking about the movie. So I'm gonna kick over to its logo and its star. Paul, do you want to get it out of the way whether or not you liked it or didn't before we start breaking it down or talking about it?
Yeah, like I really enjoyed it. I think it has some problems, but not in the way of that is more my diehard fanness
It was always going to be the
of
way.
it.
Always going to
Yeah,
be the way.
so like overly like over the entire thing, I think it was great. I think it's a fantastic introduction to the Dune universe. I think this is a really good film kind of thing. So that's the little short of it kind of thing. So
Well, funny, I'm glad you said that because I was hoping not to hurt your feelings by me saying I really enjoyed it. I thought it was epic. I thought it was wonderful. But I do have some criticisms. And you know what? Weirdly, none of them are very harsh. One of them
okay,
is not even an actual criticism of the movie, it's more a ruing of what's happened. It's more a sadness of how things have gone down. And I'll get to that later. And I think more than likely you'll agree, particularly after seeing it. Now, can we get something out of the way? In Europe, we had no choice but to see it in the cinema. In other
hmm
jurisdictions that have HBO Max, you could see it in the cinema or HBO Max. I want to be very clear. Every time that we say you should go to the cinema and see this, we're not saying you shouldn't watch it on HBO Max. If that's the option that's available to you, use it. Do I think you'll enjoy it more in a cinema? Absolutely, particularly because this one is way more about sound than it is about visuals for me. Sound design was epic beyond all proportions. So unless your home theater room is, billionaire style, I was trying to think of a famous billionaire. Unless
yeah,
you've got Bill Gates kind of money knocking around, you're probably not going to be as good as your local cinema. But having said that, see it however you can, enjoy it whatever way you can. Um, I'm gonna just start out, Paul, with saying Timothy
go for
Chalamet
it.
was excellent. I thought he was excellent.
Yeah, I agree. Like I have a bit of a problem with the physique, but that's it. Like as in I thought he was a very good he's a very good actor and stuff like that. He's great. So I really did enjoy it. He's an amazing he's an amazing Paul Atreides, I have to say. So like he's pretty good. So I
Yeah.
have no problem there. The physique thing is it's only a personal thing, as in Paul's been trained all his life and stuff like that, so he should be a little bit more muscular than Timothy Chalamet's kind of frame gives him. But I did accept that they in the trailer and in the movie they give the joke about
He's yeah.
Jason Momoa going like, "Oh, you put on some muscle," and he goes, "Really?" And he goes,
No,
"No."
you haven't.
So like I was they made a joke enough that I was just like, okay, we all know, okay, cool, I can move past this. So
And one of the reasons I was able to move past it so quick, and remember, I haven't read the books, but I have watched the David Lynch. Also, I'm alive and into the things I'm into, so I know an awful lot more about Dune than I would. Even though I haven't read the books, I know an awful lot of stuff that's in the books that have never been shown in movies so far. Just because you soak it up when you're around people who love it, and also when you're into the stuff we're into.
yeah,
But in respect to Chalamet himself, I very much enjoyed his portrayal of the character because I thought he did the one thing that I was worried about. And again, this is where the spoilers come in for the story. He has two things thrust upon him in this June Part One, which is going to come up again in a minute. The whole Part One of it all.
yeah,
Um, he has things thrust upon him, and he's the young prince figure. He's that young prince who finds out not only are you going to head up the house someday, equivalent of being the king, but then finds out from his mother, who's Bene Gesserit, and for those of you who don't know what that is, think of which Jedi people who have been behind the scenes,
yeah,
pulling strings.
yeah,
When she tells him, "Oh, also you may well have been bred into existence to be the Messiah," and he no point does he play it off in the petulant, annoying child way of, "Oh, I didn't ask for this. I hate this," and kicking sand around with his feet. There's a definite sense when he has the scene with Oscar Isaac as his father. There's that sense of, I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if this is what I want. And I thought he played that very well. And I thought script wise, it was done very, very well. Same thing later on when he's hit with the next big double whammy, the 1-2 punch of, oh, not only are you not ready for all of that, but now that the world's falling apart, you may well be the savior. I thought his emotional outbursts not only were scripted well, but I thought they were acted very well. And his hand in the box pain scene, I thought he brought so much to that. I was genuinely riveted. I knew exactly what was happening. I knew exactly what was about to happen. I knew the outcome, and I knew what that was going to be. But he really did portray different levels of pain, both physically and emotionally at that moment. Oh, you've gone.
I have to run and possibly answer the door, so I'll be back in 2 seconds.
Go for it.
did hear. I'll be back in 2 seconds.
Go for it. Well, then, for any of you who are still with me, I'm not bigging up Timothy Chalamet because I'm his biggest fan in the world. In fact, he's someone who I've only seen in. I know he's done maybe 4 or 5 big movies. I've only seen him once or twice. He's been impressive. He's been very good. I thought this was going to be one of those roles where, and this shows, it says more bad about me than it does about him. I thought among this massive star cast that he may well have been cast as the it guy of the moment, the one that is going to bring in youth, bring in young people to want to see this because he's hot in every sense of the word. And trust me, the screening of this that I went to, I went in, sat down, and the cross section of humanity that I sat with was different than any other film I've ever been to, because there were 60-year-old guys in groups. There were 40-year-olds and 30-year-olds, and then there were 18-year-olds, guys and girls. It appealed to a broad section of society because there were people there who I know I have not seen in the cinema for a long time, who were only coming out because they loved the books, they read them when they were younger, and they're in their 50s, 60s, and possibly beyond now. And they were like, I'm going to see this in the cinema. And then there were also people who know who Timothy Chalamet is, who are 20-year-olds, boys and girls who are like, Timothy Chalamet is just cool. So it was really nice. Paul, what I was vamping and covering there was saying, I'm not just bigging up Timothy Chalamet because he's cool at the moment. I genuinely think he brought the goods.
No, I have to say that yeah, like the box part that you were talking about is a really important part to the entire film, which was uh, in previous adaptations, so the BBC one and also the original movie, they showed an actual physical thing, but whereas this they just showed Timothy Chalamet's face and he did all the acting himself, which was great because like we're not children. We don't need to know, like, kind of thing. The mystery of what the box does is more interesting than showing us physically. So, like, having his reaction to it and stuff like that, and kind of like, which actually made it more kind of potent when he comes to the other side of us and stuff like that. And so he was brilliant throughout.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So like I do have to say that it's a more kind of like where a lot of the book and other adaptations have the internal monologues of stuff, this doesn't, but what it does is it portrays it more on the faces of people or the way that they act and stuff like that. They do it in other ways, which Timothy Chalamet does really well,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And also Paul Atreides is not the easiest character to play, kind of thing. He is a very difficult role, which I think Timothy Chalamet did really well.
Yeah.
So,
And I got to
do
be honest
agree.
with you, Paul. I think that, because I always talk about, we've talked about it on the channel, there's people like Denis Villeneuve, and I think we said it in our build up to this. He's a really good director at knowing when to show and not tell, which is what we were all worried about for this particular movie, because it's dense source material can get lost if you try and exposit and dialogue your way out of it and internal monologue your way out of a box. But they did it so much better. Hans Zimmer and the soon-to-be Oscar-winning sound design team, because there's no way they're not going to win an Oscar for this. And if they don't, whatever beats it will be the greatest bit of sound design in the history of cinema, because this is really bloody impressive. All of the stars in this movie, there should be just a picture of Hans Zimmer and the sound team on the poster going, yeah, this is the other character that's helping you through.
Yeah, like I do agree. This is an amazing sound piece kind of thing, like with the soundtrack and also with like diversifying the different feelings of different, like I guess, show pieces or characters or races or elements or factions.
Or just emotion, even that, the internal monologue, like he's doing speaking, like this, the movie is talking to you without saying words, just using both the score and simple bits of sound design. It's incredibly well done.
Yeah, yeah. Like I couldn't help it. Now we had a problem because we saw it in IMAX in Cineworld and the sound was too loud.
Oh.
That was the only problem. Like, so I had two issues with watching the movie, which was the sound was a little bit too high because there is some absolutely like blowout parts of the sound piece, and on an IMAX sound system in which that is a little bit too high, it can get to you.
Rattle your teeth, all right.
Yeah, and the second one was there was a person right at the start who wouldn't believe me that we were in the right row and the right seats, even though I have been to that cinema way too many times. So
I had the same thing. I had to say to somebody, and okay, they were not from this country; they were on holidays, I think. So there was no hassles. It was just like, you're really close to start time of the movie, and I don't want this conversation to go on too long. Just can move. Yeah. Anyway,
my person was 15 minutes after the movie started. Yeah, so, they came up to me and I was just like, nope, I was like, we're in this row. Because the IMAX ones are a little bit confusing. They have the letters.
Yeah.
The row after is that letter.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of thing. So like, I had to like explain to them. That that's not how this works. It's just like, it's a letter and then... Yeah,
I will never wish death on somebody, because that's ridiculous. But I will wish an uncomfortable rash on that person for maybe 35 or 45 minutes, where they are not able to scratch it. So, yeah, that's not cool. But Paul, we've covered Timothy Chalamet and we've covered sound, and it's going to come up again. But just before we move off sound, one, because I only have, like I said, two kind of valid criticisms, and then just something that's more of a rueful musing. One of the things is the smallest of all the things that took me out of the movie. Fucking bagpipes, man. Bagpipes. It was a weird choice. It was is that something that I directly missed from the
It
taken from the books, because I can't imagine Herbert was like, and bagpipes.
No, so like it's not taken directly from there is an instrument that Gunny Haddock plays,
Josh
but
Brolin's character.
yeah, so like there is instruments, but I think it's more a portrayal of kind of the nobility of the house, and like it's that there's a ceremony of them taking over the kind of the taking over the role of stewards of Arrakis or Dune,
Dude,
and I think they wanted to make that a little bit more kind of, I guess,
yeah.
honorable,
I'm part
you know.
Scottish. I have no problem with bagpipes as it goes, but it was just a moment where, with everything that they had done up to that point, the grandeur, the scale, the nuance, the intensity, the action, the emotion, the bagpipe. The
Yeah,
bagpipe
it was a
was
bit.
mistimed. If I was going to go back and give a note, I'd be like, bagpipes, maybe not. A drum would have been ceremonial and strong. Bagpipes. It was a brave choice, not
It
the
was
best one.
it was it was an interesting one, I will agree, but I got what they were trying to portray the House Atreides as, like, kind of like, I guess, more traditional, kind of honorable kind of group. I don't know. It's just like a forecast
Yeah.
of it.
Well,
So
with the with the small gripe out of the way, I want to, and I've got the head of the Bene Gesserit order on screen right now. So before I
mhm.
move away to something else, or we move away to something else, how did you feel their portrayal worked out? How do you feel that they got that across?
so so yeah, they explain the Bene Gesserit quite well, which is good because at this point they are quite important, kind of thing. So they got the way that they're kind of like it's a shadow organization and stuff like that, and they've got some certain training and stuff like that, and they've got a kind of a path in which they want to follow. So I did think that they got the kind of like Benny Gesserit organization a little bit through the, like, they explained enough of it without giving a lot of like exposition, which is good, um, kind of thing. So like I don't know if they've set them up entirely about their kind of role within this, but they've got you enough at this point, I think, that you're okay to kind of move forward,
Yeah.
within the first part. I think maybe the second part they might do a little bit more explanation about things on their side and stuff. So yeah.
Well, I just and I want to say, I kind of want to get it out. I just, while you were talking, I took a brief second to look at the comments. Ben, never change, always pun. I'm only ever messing. Keep the puns coming, brother. Um, we may have spoiled it a bit for for Casey Wonder already. I hope you don't mind. I hope we said spoilers early enough and you hadn't joined just after we said that. Um, but yeah, bagpipes. They might be annoying, but at least they're loud. Bagpipes are fantastic, but not for Dune. Uh, Paul, I agree with you on everything you just said. The one thing that I guess I can bring to this that you can't is that I haven't read the books. So I am coming from the, okay, not completely the layperson's point of view, but I can say this movie did not lose me. It wasn't going to lose anybody. They did a good job of not going too deep. If anything,
Yeah.
on to my second minor criticism. Spice melange, whatever, it's just spice here. They covered it, but I think I'm going to say this early, actually, and you may disagree or may agree. I would have loved if they had made this two movies. I would have loved if, seeing the skill that's been brought to this, I would have loved if not just a sequel after this is the thing, but if he'd been allowed, and I mean, Denis Villeneuve wanted to shoot back to back, part one and part two. I think if they'd been shot back to back, in the edit they may have said, well, we have three movies here, and we can give more time and a little more space, because no one in the theater I was in, and I don't think people who watch it, I don't think anybody was bored by the politics or the religion
Hmm.
or the epicness. And I think Spice itself was represented, but almost giving the real essence of, it being LSD mixed with oil. You need it to get around the place, but it's also going to be quite important as to how it affects people. They didn't miss it, but I could have really, I was soaking in a bath of goodness. I could have done with just a bit more on that.
this is okay. So this is my level of gripeness. I
Oh,
think
okay.
they got there's so I do think that they got enough through. They decided to focus on certain areas, which is really really good. I don't think they gave other places the courtesy that they needed to, in the sense of for impact of certain elements that happened, which I'll go into a little bit more. But the spice thing, I think, should have been explained about, and you can like it's in several versions of this show, um, in several versions of this book, it's been done well. Like explaining the fact that it gives you longer life. It gives you sorry, I have two dogs underneath me right now.
They're not coming through heavy. They're great.
Okay.
Everybody loves
Um
dogs, by the way, and I'm not asking you that if
um
you love them. I'm telling you, everybody should love dogs.
so like yeah, like spice gives you long life. It's what lets you traverse space and time so that you can get from one planet to the other.
It's kind
It
of
gives
crucial.
people's yeah, it gives people certain people some really wicked kind of abilities and stuff like that. It's like it's important within this economic universe kind
Hmm.
of thing. So like it's giving that a little bit more kind of this is there's only one planet that does it, that is able to produce it. It's so important for some of the organizations which are pillar to this kind of universe. Like that gives the kind of like urgency of getting it. The reason why House Harkonnen is so wealthy and powerful, and also why the urgency of getting the production up and running for the Atreides family. That's why I think that's why I think it's they missed the mark on that kind of explanation.
And it's funny
Um,
that it was something that hit me, and it's something I'm glad that you don't disagree completely, if you know what I mean, because it means that on those two levels, let's say you're deep in it level, my medium level, but also my wife who came with me and had no background in any of this, coming in completely cold. I asked her afterwards because I brought up kind of the things I was thinking of, and sure enough, she said bagpipes before I did, which was fair. Um, but also, and I was like, so pacing and all the rest. She, no, completely get it all, and there was nothing that when as we're talking through it, nothing was coming up as they didn't really lean on that enough, except for um, when I was like, yeah, I could have done with a bit more of a bit of gravity being given to Spice and a bit more background. She's like, yeah, that's the one thing I would have liked. I would have liked that, and it wouldn't have bored me. It is intriguing. It's obviously one of the other pillars of this whole story. And I was like, yeah. So you got the religion, you got the politics, and you got the reason behind some of the religion and politics, because you've got like LSD oil. You've got what is essentially diesel and PCP. You've got something that can move your ships around the place. That's imperative for travel in the galactic sense, but is also uh, quite altering in other ways. So again, not a massive complaint. That's not even a big gripe because they did it, they got it across. But it's where my biggest gripe comes, and this is the ruining the change. If they had been allowed make one and two back to back, if the studio had shown all the confidence with this stellar cast, this amazing director, this unbelievable property, you can imagine a Peter Jackson kind of thing happening here where they go, yep, we're going to do these all the way they need to be done. And in this case, if it needed to be 4 parts, 5 parts, 3 parts, 1 part, it would have been sometimes I think in the making that they would have realized, you know what, we're doing well enough, this is going well enough that we can actually make what we saw as part 1 be maybe part 1 stopping a little bit earlier, part 2 having some of what we got already, and then part 3 being another conclusion. Because the movie numbers don't have to match the book numbers, you just have to tell the story well.
yeah, like it's because this is all based on the first book, and like they explain it really quickly, which is actually just a pro just a so small synapse in the start that they could have added into the movies synapse, or like movies uh like
Like the preamble for it all,
pre-start.
yeah.
Yeah, like Zardana's kind of like little exposition at the start kind of thing. You could literally have added it in a little bit more into that speech, and you probably would have explained what spice is to this universe kind of thing. This is fossil fuel kind of thing in a world that like it's not even fossil fuel as much as
Yeah,
like it's literally life for some of people
yeah.
because it keeps them alive kind of thing.
It's like a super pill in Pac-Man. It's a lot
Yeah,
of things, you know. But
yeah.
Paul, I'm watching the clock and I'm realizing that we're going long because I have to do it. I know you want to talk about the story, but I actually have to talk about the actors and the production because it wouldn't be fair if I tried to pick
Oh,
my favorite actors in this. It would be so difficult because I've got Oscar Isaac and Josh Brolin on screen.
hmm
Brilliant. I thought they were perfect. I know a lot of people are probably not going to like Oscar Isaac's portrayal as maybe a little bit flat and cold in places. I thought he was regal. I thought he was brilliant. I dug it beyond all belief. Obviously, you've got the fun one, which is Jason Momoa's Idaho. Always a
yeah.
good example why I keep this thing on my chin. I did what he did. Halfway through the movie, shaving it off. You look like a different dude without it. He definitely suits a little bit of chin hair. That little bit better. He's a beautiful man no matter what.
I
Love
do
you,
agree.
Jason. Was there anybody that let you down? Because I'm building up to the one that blew my socks off most, other than Chalamet.
No one let me down. Idaho was really good because, like Jason Momoa's Idaho was really really good because Idaho is that kind of he is a wild kind of man kind of thing.
Swashbuckler.
Like yeah, exactly. And Jason Momoa played him perfectly. I do have to like, I really enjoyed Jason Momoa's Idaho. Josh Brolin's Gunny Haddock was amazing. I do have to say that the like I'm actually looking for him. David Damashant Piter
David
was
Dasmalchian from Polka
yeah
Dot Man, or as some people know him as the funny one in Ant-Man 2.
yeah for Piter that was a I really liked him. I didn't think that character got enough on screen time.
He's a magnetic dude. Again, something that myself and my wife talked about afterwards. She's like, oh, when he died, it was really sad because of that actor as well as that character, because he's got presence. He's just great.
Yeah, and there's some interesting elements to that character, but I'm not gonna kind of go
they
into those.
they didn't get through
That was
that whole
fine.
kind of human computer element thing. They didn't get that across very well, but I forgave them very quickly because they didn't have to. That's one of those things where if they had tried too hard and failed, it could have ruined their flow for me. So I gave them an instant pass on that, if you know what I mean.
This is the thing because Stephen McLean Huston, who plays Howitt, which is the Atreides version of what Piter is, they're mentats, and yeah, that was the other gripe with it, as I said, that they didn't explain too much about what they are, that they're human computers and stuff like that,
Yeah.
because my partner was very confused about their ability, but not that Piter's story. He's infatuated with Jessica.
Right.
Yeah.
See,
So
yeah,
there's a
and
whole subplot there that doesn't get told,
this is
and
the
it's
Tom
also
Bombadils of it all. This is what you want
the,
to leave out.
yeah. So it tells you a little bit more about how she escapes and stuff. But it's Piter's very in wants her to survive and stuff like that because he's infatuated and loves her, kind of thing. So like that helps a little bit on their escape. And then what is the other character that I really really enjoyed? Well, most of them, like
Yeah,
as in
well,
I've
I'll tell you what. I'll
so
give you Zendaya for a moment. Not much of a speaking part in the end. Obviously, going to be much more important going forward. She has presence. That was cool.
yeah.
I'm not gonna sing her praises because compared to the rest of the cast, she didn't have as much to do. So it's no slight or unslight. Javier Bardem though, Javier Bardem was given little and did a lot. I thought as kind of the head of the Fremen when he walks into the room, kind of the spit scene made everybody laugh and recoil and all the proper stuff. But before
Yeah.
he did that, he already had captured that room. So fair play to him. That was a small but significant role.
Yeah, Stilgar, like, perfectly played. I love Stilgar. Like, couldn't have been more happier. The fact that he was that he like his introduction is just fantastic. Steals the show. So, like, Jarvi Bandam did really really well. I really enjoyed that. So,
So I'm gonna kick it up a notch. Then I'm gonna go straight to the one that we haven't talked about that I think just blew me away. It's Rebecca Ferguson. I almost said her name wrong there. I almost called her Ferguson, Rebecca Ferguson. She was, because that's a role, man. That is a role that I would not want to play in a million years. It's, as tough as Paul Atreides is, and it is, that's a hell of a role. What she had to do to get the movie that was made, and I mean the Denis Villeneuve version of Dune, what she had to do to keep things on track and make things grounded and believable when she needed to have the emotions that she was having, have that duality to her of, she's one part this, one part that, so to speak. She's got a foot in a few different courts. I was stunned. And I think it's out of pure ignorance on my part that I've only seen her in a handful of other things that I had no idea she was this good. I had no idea she was this good.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Like she stole the show. She's like I would say that her character is one of the breakout characters of this movie, in the sense that Jessica was just really well portrayed in this. She is such a catalyst for things, and such a such an important part, especially for this movie. She's such an important part of kind of, I guess, grounding Paul in a lot of things. And you just, like, as we've already said, Timothée Chalamet's like portrayal of Paul was really, really good. And if you had in any way a weak person to play Jessica with him, it would have been very obvious.
That's exactly it. She's everywhere that she is. It's crucial that she pulls it off. Crucial for his character, crucial for Oscar Isaac, who was just knocking out of the park anyway. All of their other interactions later, just she's the one that carries that kind of evil witch Jedi, what are they up to, feeling with her. Like, she's the one that gets on the ship with it, going from Caladan to, off into the sands. I cannot imagine this movie having worked the way it was made without her doing as good a job. I think you could have had other people fail. Like, Dave Bautista didn't bring a whole lot to it for me. And look, Bautista is my Drax. But, at least his part was not as crucial.
Yeah, like that's the thing. As in, Dave Bautista's Butcher is not, he's not important at this role. You just need to see how vicious the Harkonnens are, and I think he portrays that really well. But Jessica has to portray a awful lot.
Yeah.
And it's just like, with that, if like, not to cite Dave Bautista, because Dave Bautista is my Drax, but Dave Bautista's character didn't do well in this, as in not from a character kind of level. It's just that he's not portrayed in anything else except for just being a massive fist or hammer onto a world kind of thing. If Jessica was portrayed in similar fashion of kind of just being very one-noted, the Paul Jessica dynamic for most of this film would have been really off, and I think that would have thrown the entire film out of alignment and stuff like that. So like, it was really important that Rebecca Ferguson really brought her A game, and I can't stress it enough that she really did.
She has put herself on my radar in such a way that I'm already I've been onto her IMDb looking at what I have and haven't seen her in, and I'm going to be going back and checking it out. Because it was one of those performances where I'm like, oh, I really want to keep up with Timothée Chalamet now, because my God, he was good. Oscar Isaac did that years ago to me. So, to be fair, so did Josh Brolin. But she's done it now, and I'm like, I'm going to get back there. I'm going into her back catalogue, because if she can do this, then what else has she done that I've been dumb enough to miss? Paul, can I answer a question from the chat? Because Ben asks a question for me. He says... question for Patrick. If you could have gone back in time and read the book, would you? Or was it better for you to go in clean?
Yeah.
Having seen the movie, I'm glad I haven't read the books, for the same reason that it was the reverse for me with Lord of the Rings. I'm happy that I got to experience Lord of the Rings with it all in my head. And that's all good, and I was able to compartmentalize. But because this is more Middle Earth can feel like just the past or an alternate Earth in a lot of ways. This is galactic. This is universe sized. This is huge. And I'm so glad that I got a visual medium. I'm not saying that I never want to read the books. Now I want to read the books even more. I've always intended on getting around to it. This has meant that I definitely will get round to it. But if I could go back, no, I wouldn't. If I had, I'd be just as happy. But would I be like, oh, would it have been better if I had read them? No. I got to go travel across the universe on a very big screen with great sound. Because Denis Villeneuve and the people responsible for making this, I left the cinema with sand on my feet and, a bit of salt water in my hair from the start of the movie. They brought me there. I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing. There's a part of me that would agree. I would agree that if I
If
had
you
the
could go
choice
back, would you
to go back in time,
really?
would I not read the books or stuff? Like a part of me was just like, yeah, like it would have been,
Wow.
it would have been good. It would have been if this was my first introduction to Dune on screen. Yeah, I think part of me would have been would have been an absolute amazing introduction to the Dune universe and stuff. And then another part of me, which is very much just like you have such a knowledge base, that this is more fun. As in, there's no
Yeah.
guessing for you. There's no kind of like sitting there kind of going, why is that? And then looking it up or anything and finding
Yeah.
out possibly more things that could possibly ruin it. I
True.
have a knowledge base that doesn't ruin this. It
Although,
just makes me.
thanks to Lynch and you and others, I guess I wasn't guessing at any of this either, if you know what I mean. So almost I agree with you because I would have preferred to have actually been my wife in that case, the person that had zero exposure. So yeah, but what a great question. Thank you, Ben. Great question. Paul, there's an elephant in the room, or an elephant-sized worm under the sand, that brings me to the obvious worm in the room. My last gripe. The only bit of VFX in the whole thing that didn't work for me was just before the end when they showed a worm rider, and I almost wish I had HBO just to go and fast forward to that bit and go, was it just that I was on a high or exhausted at that point in the movie, or was that some dodgy VFX? So this is a question to you, Paul. Did that look a bit ropey for you in your viewing, or is it just my experience of it at the time?
I don't see this. I don't think I ever made a note of it, so I
Okay.
don't know. As in,
Because it's
it
only a
did.
few frames, and it's where he looks over and he's like, and that's real power, or that's your real power here.
Yeah, I don't think I noted it. As
Right.
in, so I don't know if it was like just bad CGI or something wrong with maybe like your just the last couple of frames of your thing, or you were tired,
Yeah.
or other. I didn't make a note of it and stuff like that, kind of thing. I think I may have already been just like, oh, this is like a third of the book. Like, where's the rest of this?
You
know,
knew
kind
at
of
that
thing.
point, same as I did. We're not ending. We're not ending on the end of the story here. We're definitely just part oneing this. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it again. Just for that at some stage, just so I can be like, oh yeah, no, it was there was coke in my eye or something. But
Yeah,
I have a funny feeling there might have been slightly below par CGI just for that.
that'll be interesting. I'm definitely gonna go back and look at that next time
Yeah.
I see it. So,
Um,
so gonna go again.
what did you think of the worm? The grand scale of the worm, the worms.
So
Massive.
they are like, yeah, they're the other character within the universe, within this universe on Arrakis, and like it's very important. I really like the design. They are very classic to the original design of the worms, whereas in some of the other portrayals
Like Tremors.
they're more, yeah, perfect, yeah,
Yeah.
they're more like Tremors. So because the important thing is that they have a lot of teeth, kind of thing, and they like you, as you're portraying up on the show, that they have those kind of like long tendril teeth and stuff like that, and which is just important. And then the sound design for them is really, really good. I really like them as well. That kind of like foghorn kind of like half of it probably couldn't even be heard because
Yeah.
it's so deep.
Beyond the low
like,
register, yeah.
yeah, so like I really enjoyed that. Like this, so I believe that. So we did have a thing about Foundation in our what have you been watching? Foundation is quite beautiful. This certainly does beat us in the kind of aesthetics. So like it's so close though, but Dune beats Foundation in kind of aesthetics and look.
And
Like
it's not the most expensive film made of all time. And let's face it, their cast wasn't cheap. So they have done very well with the money they had. It wasn't a cheap film to make, don't get me wrong. I think it was 165, 175 was production budget. That's a big budget movie. But what they got and what they did, and cinematographically, it is. I know we're talking about the sound from since we started talking about this, but holy crap, it's beautiful in ways that I wasn't expecting it to be beautiful, and I was expecting it to be quite beautiful, but wow, every dollar they spent, they got payback for. So I'll forget if there is a bit of ropey CGI on the worm riding 18 frames because it's like a second long that they show you. I will forgive it because beyond that they did an awful lot with their budget, which is why my biggest takeaway and my biggest grievance. I said this a few weeks ago. Why didn't they just have the faith to say this is going to work? It's going to work on some level. It's cheaper to make things back to back. For 220, 230. They could have had 2 to 3 films out of this.
Yeah.
Whoa, what a mistake. Because now how long is it going to take to get production back together, to get everything going, and to keep people's interest? Because the other downside, Paul, that we haven't talked about is I was fine when the credits hit. But I heard it in the theater. The people that had no idea, some of them were like, what? Because they were really into it. Remember, they'd been transported to a world that they'd never even heard of before.
Yeah.
And they're like, I'm here. And then somebody just closed the window on them. And they're like, what? And now you're going to make those people wait possibly 3 years, 2.5 years?
Yeah. Yep.
It's a mistake.
Yep, it is. No, definitely agree. They should have started production quite close. Like even if they had started production closer than what they're going to get. Like I know that people didn't have faith in this. And this is the cause to it essentially. But this was just like as far as my gripes go, they're more story kind of things of just kind of I wanted more to give to the audience so that they had as much knowledge as I had. But
which is what we could have had they let them shoot more and longer, and you could have got 3 brilliant movies maybe.
But even without the explanation of certain things, I'm okay with kind of thing because they got everything that they needed to get across kind of thing. Like they do open the door to this world in which people can now look up more stuff and read the books and go further into it. That's fine and stuff like that. But to have, as you said, to have people wait now longer to get it, it's because it's
not good business.
Well, see, if
it's not good show business.
No, it's not. And the only way that I can see this is that they're just like, well, you can just go back to HBO Max and watch Dune just before you go and watch Dune 2, or Dune Part 2 or something like that, which isn't great.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do have a gripe about them just not having the confidence in this film kind of thing, especially since this could be our Star Wars.
Yeah.
In this lifetime kind of thing.
There are very few properties this big, and this there are very few properties with this long a history, as in from first release and still being something that people are interested in, relevant today. And Lord of the Rings fit that bill. The never dipped in popularity as a written work. There are only a few more, and I don't want to see studios getting their hands on these things, putting so much money and faith into it to get, like, Timothy Chalamet and Zendaya are the people of the moment. I understand that. Okay, they're not my generation of the moment, but they are. The rest of the cast, they didn't exactly get nobodies. They were doing a lot of stuff here. To just not go that extra mile and show that extra little bit of faith, it kills me, because it may be the reason why we're talking in 4 years' time about it's a shame that it didn't really work. It's a shame that it didn't really take off. We have it and we love it, but it's a shame it didn't work out for everyone. And I think it'll not come down to the skill that was employed in making it. It'll certainly not be Hans Zimmer's fault. It'll not be Denis Villeneuve's fault. It'll be because of bad show business. And that's sad.
Yeah, it is. It is just a bad decision on their part. Like, yeah, it's so. We'll just have to see. We'll have to see how it goes in the future. We probably will do another video on kind of like, did this work in the sense of, were you able to keep your audience captivated enough that, you know, when it comes out in 2 to 3 years,
True.
then, you know, like, are they like? Because that's the thing, is we'll have to look at the numbers, and we'll also have to look at the HBO Max numbers, and then we'll have to go into the future in 2 to 3 years and just be like, so how did they compare? Did you lose audiences? Did audiences grow bigger? Did some of the actors like fall off kind of popularity and stuff like that? Like that kind of worries me as well, in the sense of like, you know, not for any horrible reasons, like I hope.
Yes,
but more kind of like, but more just the fact is that, like, you know, some actors just decide that, you know, they're done, because like Josh Brolin, like, you know, might decide that he's, you know, done, or, you know, some of the other actors might decide that they're just done with, or kind of like,
or big opportunities, you know, scheduling conflicts that even if they do end up doing this, they resent it because they wanted to be doing something else, and, you know, contractually they were pulled into this. And, you know, all sorts of things can happen in effect. I think you're right to call that out. That's something that I hadn't really considered. But you've even got the aging up of actors. What if it takes them 18 months before they can get Chalamet back in front of a camera? And he's had to bulk up for roles, another role, let's say.
Or he's meant to bulk up for this role, and his role just before it wasn't. There was that he had to be, you know, just his normal frame, and they have, you know, a possible training thing. You know, like there's a whole logistics nightmare now with having a distance of that long between the production. So,
and it kills me that it was so unnecessary. It's not like this was a brand new property that they were like, I wonder if it'll work, and we don't know if we can have. This wasn't Star Wars. This wasn't something that was written by somebody not based on something that already had a massive inbuilt fan base. And have they learned nothing from Game of Thrones? If you can get your fan base to come along with you and drag other people in, you'll get the eyeballs. Anyway, Paul, I aware we're running low on time, so I want to throw back to you, as this being your thing. What gripes or other disappointments or other real joys did you get out of this that we haven't covered?
They portrayed everything so the positives, they portrayed everything really well. The story was amazing, sound design was amazing, everything they did to portray this story on screen was incredibly well done. They chose the right actors to play each character. They did everything right. My only gripes are literally just they decided to reduce the roles of certain characters for it. Like Piter, as I said, Piter has, like, you know, he has a whole love interest in Jessica. That's an interesting kind of thing. The Mentats weren't a little bit explained a little bit more. I'm like Idaho's, you know, Faith, kind of thing. Like, that's the kind of thing. But my one gripe, I think, was probably the biggest, is Dr. Yo. They didn't explain why his betrayal is so potent to the characters, which was really annoying to me. That was my only thing.
And you know what?
Like,
his moment, kind of, when he first says to Tim, well, the first time you see him on screen, and he counsels Paul Atreides, Timothée Chalamet's character. You get a sense of it then, just then, but then they never really do get to go back and show that his relationship with them it's a serious family bond, and yeah, I guess there just wasn't room.
He is quite close to the Atreides family. It's the diamond on his head. That's a really important thing. It's called the Imperial Mark, and it's a conditioning system where he's not able to actually be disloyal.
Oh, see, that's what I didn't know.
He's got the Imperial conditioning, which means he can't betray anyone. But it's the whole point is that the Harkonnens break it. So he's literally the only one, like, when they're like, there's a spy in our midst, or there's a betrayer or something, Dr. Yo is the only one that they don't expect.
Right.
Because he's got the conditioning.
Yeah.
And it makes it so much more a big reveal when he does.
It's like he's the one who physically, literally shouldn't be able to do this. Yeah.
Yeah, like, it's meant to kill him if he betrays them. Like, so like it's meant to be a huge big thing. So like when they didn't show that, it means like I was just like, so what did you think of like to my partner? I was like, what did you think of the Doctor's portrayal? And she was just like, I didn't like that was it was weird, kind of
Yeah.
thing. And I was just like, yeah, like they didn't get to portray the fact that he's literally incapable. He's meant to be incapable of being able to do this.
I,
But his love for his wife is so powerful, and the Harkonnens are so devious that they're able to break something so powerful.
and
So,
you know what? I guess this is the point where I have to eat my own words or listen to my own teachings. Where I go, well, some things have to be, some things have to be cut. But you describing that now, I'm like, yeah, this is why we could have done with 3 to 4 movies because that's an angle
yeah,
I would have loved to have seen, etc., etc.
yeah, exactly.
Right, I want you to go to the comments because I see pop culture's back, and I know you two had personal conversations at one point even about this movie. So I would hate to end the live stream without addressing them. And while they're being addressed, for everybody else, we'd love to thank you all for your support. If you can show it some more by hitting a little like on this, drop a comment down below because we want to hear what you think. If you haven't seen Dune yet, then by all means see it however you can. Let us know if you hated it because that's acceptable too. And Paul, what do you say to the comments that have been made that I haven't read yet?
Yeah, like I definitely agree that the dinner scene at the start of the book is quite
Oh,
kind of thing. Yeah, they didn't. There's also certain explanations of other some elements that I didn't think. The sand walking, they made a joke of that, which I don't. I'm okay with, kind of thing. As in, it's not overly important and stuff like that. They make it a joke as a kind of dancey thing, but it
yeah,
is a cultural thing for the Fremen. But it's fine, kind of thing. I don't think that's it's one of my it's kind of like I wish they had gone further into more story as my main gripe and kind of thing, and the sandwalking would have been more interesting. But I know what they can't do everything.
yeah, uh,
And even if they had more time, that's a level of which I wouldn't even if they had like back to back filming and three films like all done and stuff and could go further into the explanation that
well,
the sandwalking wouldn't have been something that I would be just like it needs to be there
yeah,
overly.
but they did get it across its purpose, but they didn't really get the cultural aspect of it across. They did enough there for me, but I've forgotten. I know I'm cramming things in, and we really have to go. One of the biggest things is the Harkonnen weren't made seem evil enough, particularly Stellan Skarsgård's his kind of Colonel Kurt's portrayal. It was very Apocalypse Now, which was fine. I could have done with an extra bit more viciousness there. They came
I
across
get
as
you.
foreboding and evil, but I really could have done. They are the villains of the piece, and I really could have done with them being made seem so. They kind of hit third place behind other storytelling items of regal religion, oppression, and spice, and then it was like, and also the Harkonnens are arseholes instead of
Yeah,
the Harkonnens are real arseholes, and that's kind of important.
yeah, like I get that. I see my thing is I think that they're more than likely going to bring that into the part two a little bit more
Probably,
since and I didn't like I agree that they could have been more portrayed as kind of like their kind of evilness and that they are like a vicious, awful, like psychotic, like megalomaniacs, kind of even group. Like entirely, their entire race are like practically slaves and stuff like they are a terrible house to in any way have power, but to have them. I didn't want them to be comically portrayed as evil,
because of what happened in the Lynch film. Yeah,
and others kind of thing. As in, I think this level of kind of evilness is a good foundation to kind of go into more of what they are in the next part. So because like yeah, you have a difficulty of kind of like if you overly play them as kind of
yeah.
like evil and devious and monstrous and stuff like that, that they could lose some of it. And it's good to kind of put a foundation of kind of like they are being used as they are being used as a weapon against someone else, and they are perfectly happy
Yeah.
and would have more than likely done this themselves if they weren't backed by
You
certain people.
definitely, you do get that they're evil, but you know what? And thank God, pop culture. Thankfully, you're here to put in the last comment of my son looked at me and said Drax is evil in this movie. But you've just made me realize why they can't show the Harkonnens as unbelievably, deadly, disgustingly, deviously evil as I'd want them to be. And that's because this was here. It's a 12A rating. The US, that makes it a. Is that just PG? No, it's probably lower than PG, or is it PG in America? If you can type it in down below, I don't know what the rating in America is, but I'm really glad somebody like our good friend over at Pop Culture 33 got to watch this with their son. I'm glad that they were able to film it and not make it, an 18s or an adult only movie. So I'm okay with a bit of brooding Colonel Kurtz, rubbing sweat in a bald head and genuinely being menacing still. Maybe the overt nature of the physical evil and nastiness wasn't necessary, I guess.
See,
PG-13.
yeah,
Okay, yeah.
like I get it because I think this is the whole thing is that I think they've set the stage right now because they now own, like as I said, we've said spoilers before, they now own Arrakis in the end of this film, and they're going to be able to show the brutality of their reign a little bit more, and they're uncaring in anything anything with life other than their own personal kind of thing. So like I think they'll be able to portray a little bit more evilness on a center stage part to it, which will be good. So like you could see that part 2 may up the ante on the age restrictions a little bit.
And you know what? If they keep it as PG-13 and do the storytelling as well, I'll still be all right. Now, Paul, I just looked at the clock and I thought this is the best half-hour episode we've ever done in just under an hour. So I would like to say I'm really glad you enjoyed it. I was worried that it was going to be terrible, not for me, but for you, because I wasn't going to lose anywhere near as much as you were, kind of emotionally. So I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad I enjoyed it. I'm really looking forward to part 2. I'm really annoyed that I'm going to have to wait so long to see it. But that's my review in a nutshell. Go see it and then be patient.
Yeah. Go see it and message us back some of your thoughts on this review and also on our social medias, which goes, you could get it just below me, I believe. So,
yes.
Which goes. But thank you for watching. Yeah, it's a really good movie. So.
I've been Patrick.
And I've been Paul.
Atreides. And we will see you next time. We've been Here Aside. See you all soon.
Thanks
for
very much.
joining us. Bye.